Yes, we can say, can you let me open the show, the election show, in a proper way? Thank you very much.
I'm done.
That was Hani Zubaydah. Welcome back to the news today, and tonight we begin our Israeli election special. 1 hour each night on the campaigns, the issues, the scandals, and the implications with panels of analysts, correspondents, and in-depth political interviews. And tonight, the day after Benjamin Netanyahu's speech to the American Congress, now the question is where the tide will turn, how it will influence the polls in the elections. The Prime Minister succeeded in bringing the Iranian nuclear issue to the forefront of public discussions, and his image, the place where he is perceived as having an advantage over opposition leader Isaac Herzog. But by March 17th, will that focus fade? Joining me tonight is Amir Orn, defense and government analyst for Haaretz Daily newspaper. Good evening.
The answer is yes.
Okay, so we can close the show. Thank you very much, our viewers, for being with us tonight. And Professor of Political Science, Dr. Hani Zubaydah, good evening.
Good evening, Lucy.
You have a lot of time today to speak.
Thank you.
And I-24 News diplomatic correspondent, Tal Shalev.
Good evening, Lucy.
Good to have you here in the studio. So, gentlemen, let's, my lady, let's try to understand a day after, 24 hours after. From what we're seeing, it's not influencing the Israeli public so much.
As was expected, there was a slight boost to Netanyahu's fortunes electorally, and we can debate who was hurt by this boost, which of his rivals from the right or from the left, but it's only a slight boost. Nothing major. If Netanyahu was on a downward slide, it may have stopped this slide, but it didn't give him any big bounce.
So let's see the polls from Channel 2, Channel 10, yes. Israeli Channel 2 and Channel 10. We are seeing, the Zionist Union is with, for Channel, this is for Channel 2. Yes, the Zionist Union with 24 the seats, the Likud Party with 23, the Jewish, the Joint List with 13, the Yesh Atid Party with 12, the Jewish Home with 12, the Kulanu of, and the head is Moshe Kahlon with 8. This is the last poll from Israeli Channel 2. Let's see the last poll from Israeli Channel 10. Right now, yes, this is still the Channel 2. Shas with 6 seats, Israel Beitenu with 6, Meretz with 6, United Torah with 6, and Together with 4. Now let's see the poll from Channel 10.
Very low number of parties are entering the parliament. The
Zionist Union with 23 seats, the Likud Party with 23, Yesh Atid with 13, the Joint List with 13, the Jewish Home with 11, Kulanu with 10. Let's see the rest of the parties. Shas with 7 seats, the United Torah with 6, Together 5, Meretz 5, and Israel Beitenu with 5. These results are really interesting because we anticipated yesterday that Benjamin Netanyahu, after a really, let's say, good speech, we can say that it was a good speech, he will get 3 mandates at least, but it's not.
Well, I think it's not. We didn't have enough time to understand the impact of this. We have to wait a few more days, maybe to the weekend polls, to understand exactly what kind of impact. At the moment, it does seem that there's a slight impact, but even this slight impact has a significance in how to define how the next government will see. If we look at the polls today, according to these 2 polls, the only acceptable outcome is actually a national unity government. It seems quite almost impossible that Herzog can succeed to build a coalition by himself. And the main headline of the evening, Channel 2 declared Moshe Kahlon from the Kulanu Party at the moment is considered the king, the one who will be actually giving the ticket to the next prime minister. He is the one who will be defining who will be forming the next coalition.
He'll be the kingmaker. Well, the important things. First, most of the public did not have time to read the analysis and what was going on around the speech, which I think they will supplement tonight. Tonight is the night. I think tomorrow's survey and what is going on right now, not the survey that we got from yesterday and scraps of today. I think tonight's survey between 6 and 10, that will be the survey that will show us what happened. I think the tide has already shifted. I agree with Amir. Bibi has stopped the landslide completely because of the survey. I agree with my colleague, which means he's now tied neck to neck with the Zionist camp. Yet, I think it all depends on what will happen or transpires until Friday. Because Friday is the waterline, I think, because if Bibi maintains this on the table for all the Friday newspapers, Sunday will be the important day to see what the surveys will say. But that's not all, because moreover, if Bibi will not succeed during the weekend, everything we say today might not be relevant. The other thing, which is extremely important to understand, and I have said that time and time again, 3 parties are dancing tango with the devil, which is the threshold. Lieberman, Meretz, and Ishai. If these 3 parties will be left out of the parliament, and we see Shas way above the threshold, Kahlon way above the threshold, Agudat Israel, which is the ultra-Orthodox party, way above the threshold. 1, it will mean that we'll have only 9 parties in the parliament, which is a great number to work out the coalition. 2, which will mean a great deal, because then the negotiations will be way more straightforward.
I mean, you have, except for the joint list, which of course will not go with Netanyahu, you have several medium-sized lists.
And Meretz.
And
Meretz, which proclaimed they will never go with Netanyahu.
I was driving at another point. You have several medium-sized lists, but this is still, if you go to the majors, this is still a one-man show. Herzog is nowhere to be seen. It's still, you're either pro or con Netanyahu, and Netanyahu knows full well that next week, to be exact, next Tuesday, there is going to be a development in the civil suit brought by his former residence manager, Manny Naftali. Netanyahu and his wife Sarah are supposed to give their depositions next Tuesday, the 10th. And this will again awaken the talk of scandals. And right now, Netanyahu is one scandal, one disaster away from defeat. If he manages to weather the storm next week, they may end up with a tie.
Until now, Tal, he was able to actually pass each and every storm that is passing through him.
He was bleeding.
Before he left to the U.S., he was in a very bad situation. It was just over the weekend we had the transcript of this so-called notorious tape recording Sarah Netanyahu in a tantrum.
It's about time. It's been on like everywhere,
forever,
like for the last year.
So definitely, this Netanyahu had the perfect gift, and this was exactly the intention of the speech. For 3 days or 4 days, everyone has been speaking Iran, and nobody remembered Sarah Netanyahu. And if you noticed what a tribute he paid for her at the AIPAC speech, standing ovations for the First Lady, that was definitely something intended to give a wink to the Israeli voter.
He had to. Someone made him do it.
I wonder who.
So he hasn't succeeded to control the agenda in many ways, but again, we're 2 weeks away. It's been such a hectic election campaign. So much can happen, and something like this, so dramatic that the Prime Minister himself will be giving a deposition, could have a disastrous effect on the voters.
I don't think they will summon him before the elections. I don't think.
No, it's a written deposition.
Okay. So that's a completely different.
And then he has to testify under oath.
But that will take time. That will not happen before the elections. We've spoken about this numerous times. The Prime Minister is an extremely gifted campaigner. What he's doing is he's going back to his strength. He completely evaporated any topic from the platform for the last week. Everybody was talking about the Congress. We counted how many times he had standing ovation. 21, which means more than Churchill. Which, how many times did the Democrats stood? How many times the Republicans? What did Nancy Pelosi do? Come on, he's obviously going to his strength. Regardless, it worked for him. Because right now, if you look, without Yesh Atid, without Meretz, without the Zionist camp, and without the joint list, he has 65 seats. He has them. It's not in his pocket because we have to.
If you're putting what? If you're putting the
If I'm
Likud
putting
with
the Likud, the Jewish Home, Kulanu, Israel Beitenu, Shas, Yadut HaTorah, and Yachad. He has, which all
but
of them.
you are talking about a really extreme right
Why?
government.
That's his.
Why Kulanu? Why do you put
But,
Kulanu
okay,
there?
let me try and explain.
But
Yeah,
please,
I understand
please,
the
honey,
question. Sure.
Moshe Kahlon wants to succeed Netanyahu from within the Likud. At one time or another, he's going to go back. For him, it makes no sense to give Netanyahu 4 more years.
It makes every sense for him to give Netanyahu 4 more years, because if the Likud will not form a government because of Kahlon's inability to give them the mandate, they will remember that for him. He needs to give him the primary, and he needs to be the treasury minister because he wants to succeed as part of the Likud government. He will never go with Yitzhak Herzog and prefer.
So he's not a kingmaker.
He is a kingmaker. For his notion, being a king means he will be the last one to say the yes, pass him above the 60 seats, and the second thing, the yes will be linked Catholic wedding with the Treasury office. That's what he wants.
But Netanyahu got a perfect gift when he got back from, when he was on the plane, actually, from the United States. Aryeh Deri, Shas leader, endorsed him. That, and Aryeh Deri...
he said that he's going to give his vote.
And so considered one of the, I think, brightest and smartest politicians around. He surely identified this tide. And there's a reason he is going to the right. He's also going to his electorate. Aryeh Deri himself is no big right-wing leader. He actually has been identified with more left-wing issues on his agenda, but he is identifying his electorate and the Shas voters competing with Eli Yishai.
This doesn't go hand in hand with the voters of, I don't know if the voters, but the people who are suffering in the Orthodox community.
Aryeh Deri is extremely pragmatic. Aryeh Deri said everything today. He said that before. He said that twice before. I was there when he said that.
I don't know if pragmatic. It's
yeah,
like
he is. But let me try and explain
I'm looking for a better word.
No, pragmatic. It's pragmatic because he knows his captured audience will vote for him, regardless if he goes with Benjamin Netanyahu or Isaac Herzog. What he did is he took the 36% of his voters that are what you call traditionalist Likud, and he said, don't worry, guys. You're safe with me. I'm going with the dude. He's Benjamin Netanyahu. Keep on voting for me. I'm going to do it. He doesn't have the privilege that Yachad, together, Eli Yishai party, or the Zionist or the Jewish Home has, because they're right to Benjamin Netanyahu, and regardless of what happened, you can never see them walking with Yitzhak Herzog. Unlike them, people do, because of what you said, because he's considered to be a leftist and a pro-social welfare and so on, people do see him jumping into bed with Isaac.
Is there a chance that he will jump after the elections and will tell the day after, okay, I'm not voting for you, I'm voting for somebody else?
First of all, yes, there is a chance because he said that he will endorse Netanyahu, provided this is going to be a Bibi Begin and not Bibi Lapid regarding his economic policies. So there is a caveat there that if he doesn't join Netanyahu, it is probably going to be explained away as because Netanyahu was going to conduct some other economic policy. But the real problem that Netanyahu has with this endorsement is that the Shas voters have as their second preference Likud. And Deri wants them to vote for Shas rather than for Likud. So that means that a seat or two will be taken away from Likud. So we are back at square one. Netanyahu, if the voters follow through, will go back to 21 seats or less, and he will lose a couple to Shas, and following the elections, he will be left with less than what he has in the polls today. So all in all, it doesn't really help him.
I think the big person in the problem, and the person with the big problem now this evening is Yitzhak Herzog. He cannot compete with the photo of Netanyahu in Congress. It doesn't matter how much criticism Netanyahu will get. And he had a very bad decision last night to have a parallel press conference. It was a good intention to go to the Gaza envelope communities and speak there and say that that's where the prime minister should be. There is a point in his case, but it didn't work. You cannot beat that kind of photo. You cannot beat that kind of venue. And he has a big problem, and the Likud is again attacking him for hiding Tzipi Livni, and the whole peculiar rotation agreement is on the table again.
They're trying to resolve it right now. By the way, they stopped his recant 5 minutes into the recant because they said it's campaigning, which they couldn't do with the same thing with the prime minister because he was over there. Two important things. One, kingmakers, it's extremely fluid because there is also a kingmaker in this equation. And while I see Kahlon really eager for treasury, Deri is eager for the interior office. Deri would like to change the entire municipal outlay of the state of Israel because now, after he was the Secretary of Interior, he understood that this is where the land lies. Now, as for Tzipi, out of the lion's mouth tonight, people in the Zionist camp are trying to get Tzipi to back off officially from the rotation. They want her to stand in front of microphones and say that she is not up for rotation anymore because of the circumstances that the political system has created 13 days before the elections.
Do you think she got into this
exactly
as a condition?
She's holding on for the time being, but the pressure is surmounting. It's a huge pressure also from people that were with her in the movement, trying to get her to back off the rotation because they say it will impede their chances of creating a government.
It's really not clear what impact that should have. Why would people vote for Herzog if he manages to get this concession out of Livni? But there is another actor,
the National Unity Government
which we barely touched on, and that's Yair Lapid. Yair Lapid has delusions of grandeur. He wants to recommend Yair Lapid for prime minister rather than Herzog or Netanyahu, and he dreams of having a bloc with Kahlon. Together they may get the same number, 22, 23, who knows, as the other two. And then he wants to go to President Rivlin and say, why look at Herzog and Netanyahu?
That's actually the original alliance that brought to the election to begin with. It was an alliance between Lieberman, Kahlon, and Lapid that brought to this election. So actually, this alliance is emerging again. We've been waiting for it to emerge.
You know, I just, let's go to a phone call with us from New York is former Israeli Deputy Foreign Minister Danny Ayalon. Good evening. Good to hear you.
Good evening, Lucy. I've been missing you, so it's good to talk to you on the phone at least.
I've been missing you too, so it's too bad that you are not with us in this period of time, but we will try to manage with you on the phone. You heard all the reactions that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu got 24 hours after the big speech. How did you, let's say, see and analyze this speech?
Well, I would say the speech from Netanyahu's point of view went very well. I think it was probably the speech of his life, not only because what he believes is his mission in life to stop Iran. And to be fair to him, he has been pointing out to Iran for the last 20 or so years, since 96, 97, when he was first prime minister. But also from the political point of view, being so close to the elections, I'm sure he understood very well what could be the implications. So first of all, he got a very good audience, and the delivery, as usual, was good. I think also the substance was good, but whether it will make a difference, I don't know. I think the jury is still out. What would be the net effect? Although it seems to me that even though he will not be able to bring any voter from the left-wing camp to his camp, at least within his own camp, he may win votes maybe from Bennett or Lieberman or even some from the religious parties.
You know, you are seeing what is happening to Israel Beitenu. You've been in this party. What do you think about the collapse, let's say, of Israel Beitenu?
Well, I would say from historical point of view, I think that Israel Beitenu has time is over. I don't think there is any more room for a clerical, for a sectorial party, for Russian Jews. I think the Russian immigration, which has been very, very one of the best things that happened to Israel, is part and parcel of the Israeli society. Yes, there are a few veterans left, and probably this is the core voter. This is why he's hovering around the threshold, 4 or 5 seats. But whether he will cross over the threshold or not, I believe this is the last election this party runs in the format that it runs already.
Yeah, the most interesting thing is that he's demanding the Ministry of Defense. Ambassador Daniel Elon, thank you very much for this. One party, before we continue, one party that is very, very, very interesting in this campaign is the joint list. The Arab parties in Israel have tried to unite for years. Today, with the polls predicting up to 13 seats in the parliament for their joint list, things seem brighter than ever, despite growing tensions with the Israeli far right. But how will the parties bridge the gaps between their ideological differences? Let's see the piece that Ayman Siksik and Sausan Shazli made.
Among the many issues affecting the Israeli election campaign, perhaps none is more controversial than that of the electoral threshold, which the Arab parties claim was raised in order to block them from entering parliament. In response to the law, the new united list combining the Arab parties was formed. So did the right wing who initiated the new threshold law in fact help the Arab parties unite?
If this were true, we would not have united into one list. We could have created 2 separate lists, and they would have been able to surpass the threshold. Hadash with Ahmed Tibi as one party, and Balad and the Islamic movement as the other. But we made a choice to meet our voters' demands and unite into one list.
But the new joint list is raising a debate about its agenda and the identity of its candidates, and presenting Israeli voters with a political prospect which they have not seen before.
The biggest challenge we are facing in establishing a wide democratic camp in Israeli society.
This new challenge has forced the joint list to venture outside its pool of potential Arab voters and address the needs of Israeli Jews as well, in an attempt to make the list relevant to a vast range of voters.
I want to address all those who have not made up their mind yet on who to vote for. I want to tell them, even if you do not vote for us, we will stand with you. Those in need of social care, we will stand with you. The retired communities, we will stand with you even if you don't vote for us. We are trying to unite all those who feel they have no more options. Even if we don't succeed, we will have reduced the feeling of doubt.
In answer to Israeli far-right, the Zionist Union is not an adequate option. We need a democratic solution for both Arabs and Jews.
After a long wait, the joint list of Arab parties has finally been formed. And additional to the challenges from within, it's now facing challenges from outside its ranks, the Israeli political arena.
Tal, I will take you to this part. Just on the news today, we just spoke about the fact that the Palestinians are calling the Israeli Arabs to go out and vote for the joint list. The joint list, that they call it the joint Arab list, because the Palestinians are seeing the benefits that they can take if the joint list will actually get this number of seats.
First of all, there's the issue of the increasing voter participation. We are expecting a record high level of participation in the Arab sector. We're talking today, I think the recent polls are predicting 61 to 64%, which is very dramatic, and it has implications for not only for the party, but for the threshold.
The last elections were around 40%.
Exactly. So this has implications for the threshold. If the participation is so high, this can mean that Avigdor Lieberman is out. This can mean that Meretz is actually out. This could have a big implication. There is a big worry today amongst Meretz, the left-wing voters, because many left-wing Jews are saying they want to vote for the Arab list. They're happy with the idea of a joint, strong Arab party in the Knesset. They're happy with the notion of Ayman Uda being the leader of the opposition. If he is the largest party in the opposition, it's something that many left-wing Jews are happy to vote for. And there's a concern in Meretz that they will be losing the vote and they won't be passing the electoral threshold.
Avigdor Lieberman brought like a disaster on the extreme right and the left.
After the change in '96, which was led by Professor Amnon Rubinstein and Professor Ariel Reichman, I wrote extensively on the fact that if you're a plumber, you should plumb, and if you're a lawyer, you should lawyer, and if you're a political scientist, you should political science. And these two people who are clueless in political science created a change which was detrimental to the Israeli political system and eventually brought us to the brink of huge crisis in the political system, which Ariel Sharon was smart enough to overturn in 2001. And as I said, I've written about it extensively. This time around, I have to say, at first when Lieberman proposed the 325, he proposed first 4%, yes. And then they invited me to speak. And I said, look, 4% is a bit problematic. And then they said, no, 330. And I said, why? Do you mean you want 4 seats? Because 325 will suffice. And then they said 325. And I should remind you, we spoke about it. The Arab parties went to the chair of the Knesset and said, please defer this for 1 term. Let's not start this election. Let's defer this, and we promise that we will get on board and sign the treaty, which they didn't. Unbelievably so, this might be one of the biggest revolutions in Israeli politics, as stupid and as minor as it sounds, because what he's doing, he might cause the demise of Meretz, himself, Yachad, which means that the system will narrow down, and that will completely shuffle the cake.
1 minute.
Several points. First of all, a fresh face is always a plus, and Ayman Odeh gives the joint list several additional points, and had Muhammad Barakeh or some of the older faces. They won't. The other thing is the joint list doesn't want Meretz to disappear. And they may sign a surplus agreement with them. They may break.
But that won't help. That won't help. If you're under the threshold,
yes, of course. But they don't want all of these votes, the additional votes, to go under. And as for Lieberman, he's really desperate. You could see from his clips, he's now against releasing those terrorists, which he, as foreign minister, released.
And after he lost the previous debate that was on Channel 2 last week, today he canceled his participation in the next debate.
Gentlemen, my lady, thank you very, very much for being with me in this part. We're going out for a short break and an update from the news desk, and we will be back for more. We will look inside the Facebook and Twitter accounts of the candidates. We will ask Israelis abroad what they think about the upcoming elections, and an interview with veteran Israeli politician and former Justice Minister, Dr. Yossi Beilin. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back. Welcome back to our election show, 2015 Israeli election show. Of course, with me now is correspondent Shachar Pellet for all the election buzz on social media. Good evening.
Yes, and what a buzz it is.
What a buzz it is.
For several weeks now, we must say. They didn't wait for the 2 weeks ahead of the elections. The web has been exploding, but now, a day after Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's congressional speech, the web is going berserk, starting with Jon Stewart, who broke the internet. Yes, he, well, we won't see it because he made some quite dirty comments, we have to say, regarding the Congress reception, but it was very, I think it was very distinct, his rage, how small Netanyahu made Obama look, and I think we could see this as portrayed by the remix of Israeli artist Noy Alush. Let's see a glimpse of his video.
Let's see it.
Tweets first, Iran second, Iran, and third, Iran. Stand down, twice, not once, twice. Stand down. Good to see you back on your feet.
Slightly embarrassing, I would say.
It is.
Not once, but twice. Yeah,
yes.
I like that.
And at the end of the clip, he's saying something about Barack Obama is a mistake. And
exactly.
Yes.
So this is very harsh words, I would say, against Obama and making fun of it. People might take it both ways, and whether
Nancy Pelosi wanted to cry yesterday.
Exactly. So there's still a debate whether this was a smart move politically on Netanyahu's behalf. But right now, 2 weeks ahead of elections, definitely gloves are off. Everything is getting very personal. And let's start with the local sphere here. Pretty much everyone's starting off with former finance minister Yair Lapid. If we take a look at Naftali Bennett, practically his brother for the past couple of years. He started out with a Spot the Difference video. We can see on the one side Yair Lapid's party and on the other Naftali Bennett. And what he says is that Lapid tried to, his aim was to lower the taxes, but this is all he did. And on the other side, this is all Bennett managed to do and did as economy minister. But the same goes for newcomer Kahlon, who heads the Kulanu party. Most of his latest videos, slogans, banners, as we can see now, puts Kahlon on the one side and Lapid on the other. We can see here Lapid as the three monkeys. And he actually uses a lot of numbers, saying that the cost of living and the cost of housing has increased 17% since Lapid became finance minister, which we must remember is the same spot Kahlon is now aiming or wishes to take after these elections. So this is a very strong message against Lapid from both sides.
That also Bennett just practically stole the same campaign from 2000 and from 2 years ago.
It's
13.
Creativity is not their strong side, we must say. Everyone is pretty similar. If we move on to the Zionist Union, they are taking their gloves off with whatever has to do with Netanyahu, from a new video campaign just showing that the 1981 alleged attack by Israel and the 2007 alleged attack by Israel on both the Iraqi and Syrian nuclear facilities have been made, while Netanyahu continues only to speak and talk about the nuclear Iranian facility, and all he does is talk. So this is them lashing out at him after he, of course, lashed out at them. There's another video by Netanyahu bashing them.
Everybody's lashing on it's
a continuous fun for us.
Look, he's already smiling. First of all, good evening, Dr. Sagi Chaimovic from the University Hospital Barcelona. Good to see you.
Good evening, thank you.
You are hearing everything that we're talking here, and we want to, just to explain our viewers, we want to hear the Israelis who are living abroad, what they think about this election campaign. And, you know, you're watching these things from like an outsider perspective. How do you see it? As I can see, you're really with a big smile, laughing about the whole thing.
It's like a big mess, you know. It's if you are not inside the Israeli politics, it's hard to follow up what's happening. You know, many new parties, people leaving their original parties and create a new party. The messages are similar but quite different. It's very hard to follow.
It's very hard to follow, and you know, what does it make you feel? Does it make you get a better perspective? Are you getting a better perspective about how things are being managed in Israel?
Usually all the parties, they deal with two subjects. One is the economy, and the biggest one and the most important for the Israelis is security. So I think in order to deal with those problems, what they need is a unit, not a dispersion of different political parties. So if you analyze, and I was just listening what you were talking about before, it's hard to understand what each of the parties want. You know, traditionally we used to have to have the left party and the right party, the Labour, Likud, and then the religious and more very small parties. Right now, we have Tzipi Livni with Bougie creating a big party. They are very similar to Likud. Probably they get more votes than the Likud, but they won't be able to create a real and strong government.
So you are actually confused. Did you already decide who you're going to vote for?
No idea, really no idea. Because first, I'm far away, 27 years since I left Israel. I have my family over there, but I'm not feeling the same way they feel the problems. I know that security is the most important. We heard Netanyahu talking to the American Congress, and it was, you know, all his speech was about the problem, the security problem, and supervillains of Israel. But there are also very deep and social problems in Israel. There are also
that should be solved. Dr. Sagi Khaimovich, thank you very, very much for this conversation with us. And Shachar Peled, thank you. Of course, you will be here.
Now that it's all on the web, they also can see what's going on.
Of course, which is very important. Shachar Peled, thank you very much. You will be here also tomorrow. I-24 News reporter Uri Shapiro looks at the short history of one of the most promising parties of the 2015 elections, Naftali Bennett's right-wing Jewish Home Party.
A union of several small right-wing parties is aiming to hit the jackpot in the next Israeli elections, becoming, according to polls, the third largest party in parliament. The key to its success: disappointment from the leading Likud party, a charismatic leader, and a wave of change.
Something new is starting for the people of Israel. When I see religious and secular, ultra-Orthodox, Druze and Arabs all united around the Jewish Home Party, I believe we can do good for this wonderful country.
It was formed in 2008 as the traditional national religious party that represented the religious Zionist movement, merged with the National Union Party and Kuma. Although the first years of the joint list were not so promising, change came in 2012. It was brought by Naftali Bennett, a businessman and former chief of staff to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The young appealing leader took over the leadership of the party and in the 2013 elections propelled it to no less than 12 seats. Now, when the polls show they may become the third largest party in parliament, Bennett has even bigger aspirations for the future.
So today we really made history, and let me be clear. The day is near that the Jewish Home will lead the state of Israel.
A brief look at the Jewish Home platform shows that the party aims to fight against those who attempt to transform Israel into a state of its citizens. Regarding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the party proposes annexing Area C in the West Bank, an area that contains at least 340,000 Jewish settlers and around 300,000 Palestinians, according to a UN report. And on the socio-economic issues, the Jewish Home holds a liberal agenda, as it supports closing the gaps through education and promoting a free market. Naftali Bennett and the Jewish Home seem to be the growing power of elections 2015. They won the hearts of the settlers and those who are looking for an alternative right-wing leadership in the country. But only after the March elections will we see if the party can make a real shift and become a national party instead of a sectoral one.
Welcome back. My guest tonight, Dr. Yossi Beilin, is an Israeli statesman and scholar who has served in several government positions, among them as Justice Minister and Minister of Economics and Planning. Much of his political career played out in the Labour Party, but he also served as chairman of the Meretz Yachad political party. Dr. Beilin was also one of the initiators of the Oslo Accords, and in the year 2003 was one of the leaders of the Geneva Accords, creating a potential structure of a permanent agreement between Israel and an independent Palestinian state. Good evening. Thank you very much for coming.
Good evening.
You know, yesterday we heard Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu talking a lot about Iran. Some will say that it was a good speech. Some will say that it was a bad speech. But, you know, one thing maybe was noticed among everyone that he didn't even mention once the Israeli-Palestinian relations. It seems like the Israeli-Palestinian relations or the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is not important anymore.
Yeah, it was not a big surprise. He doesn't like to refer to this issue. He doesn't have too much to say about it. And since he was invited almost as an expert on terrorism, he felt that this was not his job. So he did not refer to anything but to Iran and to the dangers that he sees. And that's very much like him.
You know, I'm trying to maybe look at it from his point of view. Do you think that it really wasn't political and maybe really came from a real concern about the future of Israel?
Well, I think that it is both. He lives in anxiety. This is very clear. Now they are quoting his hearing in the Congress in 2002 about Iraq. It was the same Bibi. He said, you have to fight against Iraq. It will solve everything, solve the issue of Iran and whatever. Total nonsense. I mean, if you read it today, you are asking yourself, what does he say about it? Maybe he forgot that he said it. But what does he say about it today? He lived then in anxiety, and he lives now in anxiety. It is really him. He is not playing any game, and there is no question that he wanted very much to do it before the elections. But it doesn't mean that it is artificial for him. That is the point.
You know, I want to take you a little bit about, because today it's our first, let's say, real show about the elections, and I want to take you a little bit. You've been in a lot of election campaigns, and you saw a lot of election campaigns. And did you see any shift, and do you feel any shift in the Israeli society about the way that they're seeing things, about the way that the behavior of their, the behavior of the voter? The way that he's going and voting to whom? He's going to vote for a leader. He's going to vote for someone who's maybe selling them lies, or he's actually going to vote for his concerns, for his security, for his economic security, because it seems that maybe the Israelis forgotten that.
Well, the voting patterns in Israel have changed a lot. Not only in Israel, it is a universal phenomenon. What you see here is that the big parties became much smaller. Small parties became medium parties. In every elections, you have central parties which usually evaporate after 1 or 2 terms. You don't have any more big meetings. What you have is the media, you have the social networks. This is, of course, something which never happened in the past. So the personal meetings between the leaders and the voters happens much less than before. As a result of it, even the violent points, which, for example, was very clear in 81, even in 84, almost do not exist today. I mean, I was asked whether the issue yesterday with pouring water on a member of Knesset from the Arab list was the very, very unique. I said, not at all. I mean, you are speaking about a very, very quiet electoral campaign.
You know what, and I will use this term, what driving me crazy is it seems that the politicians have this thought that we are easy to be fooled. We're easy to fool. It's like the people are stupid. They don't understand. Politicians just sell you some words, sell you some ideas, and they really think that the people are buying them. And I'm asking, are we foolish? Are we stupid? Are we maybe stopped seeing the truth?
Well, some of us are. And much more than being silly, we are ignorant about things. Things which seem to many of us in the political arena, in the media, as obvious, are very not obvious to the voters. And it is not necessarily because of stupidity. It is because they are living their lives. Their lives are not political lives. And things which are happening are not necessarily something that they really take note of. And this is, I believe, the gap between the political level and the voters. And when they meet each other, sometimes, and I know it from myself, that sometimes in a meeting, I would say something which I would think is obvious, everybody knows, and then they ask me after the meeting, Yossi, what did you mean when you said this? And, okay, I'll explain it to you now. And then I say to myself, next time, say it in brackets. So you have this phenomenon.
So what happened to the voters? Then what is the difference between the voters?
The voters are more educated and more knowledgeable than ever before. It is the other way around. They were much more ignorant. They were much less educated in the past. In the whole world, they are much more educated. And it is much more difficult to manipulate them, which doesn't mean that you cannot manipulate them. You can still manipulate people because they don't know everything. And sometimes what you are thinking is obvious, childish, even humiliating, the way the leaders are referring to the voters, for them seems much less so.
So give me an example of seeing this manipulation on the Israeli society in this campaign?
Well, I think that if a leader, the prime minister is saying, after the elections there will be VAT 0 on something, people will understand that he is saying it because it is before the elections, and 95% is that after the elections, he will say, okay, of course, I meant it when I said it, but now, after the elections, we have such big problems in the economy that I cannot fulfill it. But next time, I really promise you. So it looks like a joke, a bad comedy about a politician, but there will always be some people, and this is what I think the leader is thinking about. There will always be those silly people or ignorant people who will say, you know what, it's very good, so we won't have VAT anymore, I'll vote for him.
So I will take you on the same note before we're finishing. What was misunderstood about the Oslo Accords, do you think? You think that the Oslo Accord would have been accepted more today than they were accepted in the past?
There was no real issue of non-acceptance. I mean, people hugged us in '93, wanted to believe that this is the peace, wanted to think that this will save them. But there was an opposition of minority, which was very, very tough and violent. We did not expect Baruch Goldstein. We did not expect Yigal... What's his name?
Yigal
Amir. So, and eventually we lost the elections, and another party came to power, led by Bibi Netanyahu in '96, which made it a flag not to implement the Oslo Agreement. It is not a matter of the public opinion. It is the matter of the leadership.
I couldn't say it better. It is a matter of the leadership. Dr. Yossi Beilin, thank you very, very much for this interview that you gave us tonight. And thank you, our viewers, for being with us tonight in our first election show. Tomorrow we will be here at the same time, same place from the Jaffa Port, Israel. Have peace. Have a great night.